Shelley Winters is a true star. During her career, she's appeared in over 150 motion pictures. She has twice won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress for her work in A Patch of Blue and the legendary The Diary of Anne Frank. She is the author of 2 best-selling autobiographies. A third is on the way, and these days you can see her both in a recurring role on Roseanne and in 2 new movies entitled Heavy and The Portrait of a Lady. It's nice to see you not walking on the street in Beverly Hills, and thanks for joining us here at CBS tonight.
Thank you very much, Tom.
Last night there was a young actress here named Bonnie Hunt who won an award for the first time, and she told a story, and I don't know if it's true or not, about you whipping out an Oscar one time and saying, "I can act." Did she get it right?
Sorry, but when was the last time we did this together? You were doing a show.
I did a show for ABC Radio, and we were together.
No, not radio. It was television.
The
Just
Tomorrow
you and
Show
me.
on NBC would be about 20 years ago now.
Is it that long?
Yes, it was.
Oh. Well, let me tell you what really happened.
You were 29 and I was 32.
Yes. All right. It was a film called Awakening,
Oh, sure.
and I got the sense that they sent me a videotape of the real woman, and they sent me the script. And then I had a sense that the casting lady was going to ask me to read from the phone call, and I felt that enough people knew about my acting. If Penny Marshall, who was the director, was going to ask me to read, that was okay with me. So at the last moment, I put my Oscar in my purse. And as I talked to her, I thought that she was going to do that. And I'd done 100 movies at that point, I guess. And I took it out of my purse and said, "I think there's a lot of people around here who think I can act."
Bravo.
But I don't know whether it was a wise thing. I think every casting director in town hates me for that. But it's their way of they want to be sure before they present someone to a director or producer, and I guess that's what they have to do.
If they can't be sure with Shelley Winters, who can they be certain with, huh?
Well, my agent made me feel better because he told me Charlton Heston was up for a part, and they asked him to read.
Jeez.
So, I don't know. Maybe it's a new world.
In reading the entertainment papers here in Los Angeles today, there was a short item that you're giving away a Brando bust. You're getting rid of it.
Well, I'm not getting rid of it. It was in a place of honor in my house. It was a statue of his head that I've had for many years of him doing Mark Anthony. And he's a great actor. In the last few years, he's had terrible traumas in his life. I know that. But he went on Larry King's show and used anti-Semitic dialogue, which upset me terribly because I had great respect for him, and I know him since the Actors Studio days, which I think are 1948. When I was in Oklahoma and he was in A Streetcar Named Desire, everything I've known about him till this minute has been he defended minorities.
Well, look at the work he did on behalf of Native Americans,
yes,
the American
Indian.
African Americans.
African Americans, and many other things
Sure.
that he doesn't talk about. So I was stunned to hear that. And I just don't want it in my house anymore, and I've given it to the Anti-Defamation League, who are going to raffle it off. They defend all minorities who are defamed, and I just feel so. I felt so clobbered by it because it was somebody I respected and admired. And I think I have to say to myself, he's had a couple of years of agony.
Oh, he's had terrible tragedy, Shelley.
Yes, I know.
And maybe you'd want to reconsider considering what he's been through.
I've already committed to do that. And the other thing is I understand the point he was trying to make, that the violent films that are going out now, one after the other, I think is like a disease. I know when I was a kid, I lived in the fantasy world
Sure.
of the movies, and I think children still do. And you read about a kid, 12 years old, shooting a teacher, or an 8-year-old beating up a baby. Terrible things. And I think they don't believe in death. They see an actor in one television show, and the next night they see him in another. And I think that the movies violent television have a great deal of responsibility. And I fancy myself a liberal. And I never thought,
have been, by the way.
And I have been, and I never thought I would see the day that I think we need some kind of control, like we had the Catholic Legion of Decency and other things, and I think we need it again.
Except how about parents reinforcing with their children? And we've talked about this here with other people in your profession, actors and actresses. You know, what appears on the motion picture screen is, in often cases, not reality, but fantasy, and kids 8 years old really can't separate the two.
No, and you know, I've gone to the movies and you buy 3 or 4 tickets and they don't really look to see who's coming in.
No, they
and
don't.
when they go in, they go into 5 movie theaters, they go in one and then they sneak out and go to another one in these complexes. And I think children, especially when they're unhappy, when they're one-parent homes and latchkey children, live in the fantasy of films. I did it when I was a kid.
I know you did.
I would roller skate all over Brooklyn and pretend I was Jean Harlow. And I think the movie life I saw was realer than my own life because it was very lonely. My mother had to work and my father was in prison for a year. He was stabbed in prison. Then he had a new trial and he was completely exonerated.
And he was in prison because?
Of an arson thing. He had never had anything wrong, and I think the fire was like this big, and nobody lived in the building.
He didn't burn the store down or something like that?
No, nothing like that.
Okay.
But it was Christmas, and firemen went into the store, and he had $5,000 worth of insurance, and he had a lot of money in the store. So it was kind of, as far as I'm concerned, a railroad thing. Yeah. But it's destroyed his life. And my mother spent a year getting money for lawyers. And it's always made me cognizant of what happens to the children when the fathers go to prison. And so, I've tried to do something about that a little bit.
Against this backdrop, then, the movies became your escape.
It became my real life. Right. And my real life was, I ignored.
Hedy Lamarr and Gene Tierney.
Yeah. Jean Arthur. I was inclined to love the fine actors and actresses because something in me, Robert Montgomery, something told me they were the intelligent ones, not just the sex pots. And then when I found myself in Hollywood, I gave in to that and became a sex pot.
Yes, you did.
Now I'm a senior citizen sex pot. But, you know, that's what I saw. I did a wonderful picture with Ronald Colman called A Double Life, and signed with the studio because that's what you did those days.
Sure.
And that's what the kind of publicity they wanted me to have.
In fact, you became such a sex pot, a glamorous woman, that you had to campaign long and hard for a role in The Place in the Sun opposite Elizabeth Taylor. You had to convince a lot of people that you were more than just a pretty face and a great body on the screen. Not to take anything away from those two things.
Yes, I had George Stevens, who I adored. He told me the greatest thing about, I teach acting, and this is the greatest thing he told me. He said, acting in film is you think loud and you talk soft. And that's absolutely true. But he wouldn't let me come to Paramount. I met him at the Hollywood Athletic Club. I dyed my hair. I was in the middle of a sex pot movie, but I didn't care. And I dyed my hair, and I had my sister's clothes on. She's a nurse. And I had brown and white shoes and bobby socks, and I wrapped up a sandwich, and I just sat there in a corner with no makeup. And he walked in, and he looked around, looked at me, was looking for Shelley Winters, the glamour queen. And he sat there for about 15 minutes, and he picked up a Life magazine and looked at it and still looked around. And finally, just he was going to go, his head spun around, and he looked at me. And he just walked over and said, if I test you and you get the part, can I photograph you this way? And I said, Mr. Stevens, if you give me a part in American Tragedy, which was A Place in the Sun, you can photograph me anyway.
Yeah, great story.
And I tested and I got the role.
Did you ever? I have to pause for the sponsors. We're with Shelley Winters, currently appearing or soon to be seen in Portrait of a Lady. The toll-free is up and running, back with you and the septuagenarian sex pot after these messages.